we're going to be talking about booking a campsite. So I know it's kind of a weird place to start, but it is the first thing that we ever do, or a group ever does. And we have a double knot link. So when you guys get the slides, you can go from there. I'm going to click the link, and we'll not share that part of the screen just yet, but it'll take you to a website that you should all be kind of familiar with. It is our double knot site. And sorry, hold on, I just need to change what I'm sharing. This is our booking website. It's on Double Knot. It goes through the prices and explains that the rate is per person. It goes through each site and what the site minimum is and the site maximum is. And you will, to book a site, you just select what week you are looking for. So we have June, July, which is week 1, June 6th to 13th, week 2, etc., all the way down. So I'm going to pretend I'm booking week 6, August 3rd to 10th. And I also have to click the calendar all the way down to August and click the beginning of the week, which is the 3rd. And it will show the availability for the campsites. People get a little bit confused with the booking just because you have to actually use the calendar function as well as the category function. So just make sure that you go through. As you can see, week 6 is fairly full. You click the site for reserve option and just work your way through the menus. If you are part of Scouts Canada, which I believe most of you guys are, it'll ask if you are part of Scouts Canada when you check out. And this will change the rate. So make sure that you are saying whether you are a part of Scouts Canada or not for your own benefit. So I'm just going to switch back. Alrighty. It's also really important to know that we have our own website that is not on scouts.ca. I'm not going to go onto the website, but I will recommend that you guys go there. It's called hsrcamp.ca. There's a section under the book today that'll help you guys pick a site. Some of them, it is a work in progress, so some of them will explain the paddling distance, like how long it takes to get from one site to the main area of the hub, which you can kind of see on the map there. And it just kind of goes through what's on the site itself. So it'll explain where popular tenting areas are. It will explain a popular dining shelter area, just kind of things like that. And it has some drone video footage, so you guys can have a better understanding of what the site actually looks like before you even get there. All right. Tia.
Yeah, so one of the first questions we always get asked is, what's the cost of it? So for Scouts Canada members, the cost is $299 plus tax per person for the week. So that's for each scouter, each guider, each youth member that is there. It's $299 plus tax for the week. If you're joining us from Girl Guides, your fee is $335 for plus tax for the week. Again, that's for each guider and each youth. And if you're joining us from international groups or another third-party organization, the fees are $359 plus tax per person for the week. Okay, and then we're going to look at what is included in those fees. So in your fees, what does this include? This is including your campsite, so you get to camp on whichever site you have booked. This also includes your entry and exit transportation. So that is when we bring you from the parking lot area to your site on our barges. So including all of those boat rides when we bring you in, and also when we bring you back out the next Saturday. It also includes the parking at main end for your vehicles. It also includes the rentals of your PFD for the whole week, the canoes that you use to go everywhere that you will be on the property for the week, and also the use of paddles. And it includes all of our programs. So we'll be looking at what programs we have available in the next few slides. And all of that is included in your price of the ones I just went over. And if you want to book like a second lesson or maybe even a third lesson, you don't have to pay extra fees for that. So it's a pretty fantastic price for how much you're getting out of it. And then it also includes the staff instruction and support. So at each program area, there is staff there leading the lesson and going through the whole thing with you, whether it's rappelling, sailing, kayaking, whatever it may be. And then we also have staff on site who are there to support you, any kind of help you need. We're also out there getting your garbage for the week, picking it up each day, in various ways that staff is helping you out. And Chris, that's you.
Sorry, I was muted. Just all the things that we have on site. So we have all the PFDs, canoes, and paddles that you might need. It is important to note that the PFDs are starting at an adult extra small. So that does fit most kind of scout-sized youth. If you guys have anybody who is on the smaller side, we really recommend that they bring their own PFD. Just unfortunately, we can't have every size of PFD. We do our best. So just that's where it kind of starts. On our campsites, they each are provided with picnic tables, a ground cooler. A ground cooler is not the same as a actual cooling unit. It's more like storage than anything. They come with Kaibos. We have an internal phone system with 3-digit numbers so that if you need to call, let's say, we'll talk about it, I think it's in the next slide, the clinic. So if you need to call the clinic about something, you can call from the site as cell service can be a little iffy. And a no boat zone. So no boat zone is the replacement for a swimming area. The Ministry of Health has said that we are not allowed to have swimming areas or roped off swimming areas without a lifeguard present. So that would mean that if we had a swimming area for every site, we'd have to have 24 lifeguards at all times. And as you can imagine, that's a little expensive. So instead we're doing no boat zones, which means that if you need to get into the water and cool off, they can feel free to do that. It's just not a swimming area. We also have a country store. So the country store is a bit like a grocery store. We do food orders, and that can be combined with like our kitchen. So if you guys order ground beef from us, let's say, we can make the order through our food supplier. Or we also do, like if you want to say watermelon, we don't necessarily get a lot of watermelon because not many people buy it, but we can do the trip into town for you guys so you can spend the time with the youth and we can kind of get that for you guys. So yeah, it is really important to note though, the more notice we get, the easier it is for us to get you the food. So if you are coming to us at say 4 p.m. on a Thursday afternoon asking for a watermelon that night, chances are it's not happening. People have been into town and we will not be going back into town again to go get it. So if you let us know the day before, that's great. And if you let us know, if you submit your entire menu and say, this is what we're going to need, we can get it all prepped for you and you just come in, take it and sign off. All of the food orders and stuff can be added to a charge. So the charge is our fancy way of saying your bill paying at the end of the week. So every Friday when you guys cash your bill at the end of the week, all of your food orders can be placed on there as well. We also have a trading post. The trading post is where it's kind of like a tuck shop. So we sell merchandise, snacks, pop, crests, all sorts of cool things. And we'll also have information about other Scout Canada camps there and some events that are going on. So I'm going to throw an example up there of Snowmoot and Lamamoot. Those are just some examples of Scout Canada events that will be advertised in the trading post. We also have a clinic, which we'll be talking about in a second. It is really important to note that this is not a hospital. We just do the basics there. And it honestly depends on the nurse as well, what the nurse is comfortable with. If there's a doctor on site that week, we can do a little more. But again, we'll get a little into that more later. And then we have programs. So we have a bunch of programs that Lucas will talk about a bit later. And we have a bunch of trails and stuff going throughout the property. It is a very large camp and they'll leave us a very small section of it. We really do encourage to use the trails throughout the system. And we have a hand up. You can unmute, ask a question.
It was asking what the size was of the ground cooler, because I know coolers, when you bring up your food, they all change in size. So wanting to make sure we've got the right size. I
think Steve said something in the chat about it. It is kind of hard. They're all a little bit different size because they are old. I would say like the normal average size. I think it's 20 liters is the basic one. 20 or 40 liter cooler is the basic size. You can stack about one or two of those up. Ready? Alina.
Oh, that's me. All right. So we are really lucky. We actually do have a clinic at camp, so we're able to offer some medical help if we have kids or scouters that need a little bit of help. So the clinic is set up to provide first aid and normally has a nurse. So we are trying to staff it all the weeks with a nurse. And fingers crossed, we're almost there. And some weeks we do have an MD or a doctor or a nurse practitioner on site as well that can provide those lovely things like stitches. That's the thing we like to see lots of, or we don't like to see lots of. So we're stocked for emergency first aid. There's a refrigerator available for medication. So if you've got a diabetic that's got some extra meds that you don't want to have in the ground cooler fluctuating in temperature, we can actually store those for you at the clinic. There's beds for overnight if needed. We really do encourage the scouts to stay with their group when possible. It really does seem to help with homesickness to keep them with the people that they know. We have a quarantine room if we end up with kids that are showing signs and symptoms of things we don't want passing to the group. And there's also a bathroom, which I can talk about a little bit more down the line of what I'm talking about here. Some of the big things to bring to camp for our friends that haven't been before, medications as appropriate. So we do recommend that you talk to the parents about sending all of the children's normal daily meds. All medical devices like CPAP, BiPAP, if you've got the battery chargers, which I'm sure you can talk to fellow scouters that have had CPAP in the past with us. I do have a power charger. We do have power at the clinic that you can come on down and charge your battery packs for CPAP, BiPAP, all those medical devices. And in the past, I've even stored oxygen for scouters out on the lake that were coming to us for palliative. They just loved the camp and they wanted to be with us in the end of their days. So we've stored oxygen. We've had lots of interesting special requests. We're always happy to work with scouters and the scout parents to make sure that we can get as many people as possible up to camp. So if you've got some weird and wonderful wacky thing that you would like to talk to us about, you can reach out to Chris and he will reach out to the nurse for the week. So we do try to accommodate to get the kids up to camp. At registration, they ask for the general medical information, and at Skipper's meeting, which when you join us up at camp, you can actually flag the nurse or the doctor down just to give us a heads up if you've got any not so weird and wonderful things, allergies and all that type of things. We like to get a heads up on. And we are really lucky, and it really helps put parents' minds at ease that our hospital is in Haliburton, and it's only 40 minutes away. So it's really not too bad. I think last summer we had a child with appendicitis, and they had them off the lake within like half an hour of wondering if it was appendicitis, and we had them into town probably an hour later. So they were off to assessment and things went really smoothly. So we're really lucky we work well with our hospital in Haliburton. Some of the things we often see is sunburns, dehydration, all that good stuff. So we do like to encourage everyone to stay hydrated. Footwear is really important. So when you're packing your scouts, make sure everyone's got proper footwear, sticks and stones and all that good stuff. Do a number on toenails. And it's not great when you do it on the first day at camp and you're stuck for the week. So lots of burns we do, and I don't normally talk about this when I talk about groups planning to come to camp, but one of the big safety things is we don't suggest that the youth should be carrying boiling water. We have had some incidents in the past of children getting burnt. So we do, when we're teaching people about what to expect to come up, we want to make sure that that's one thing we point out. Allergies, so you'll know your groups better than us, and then anaphylaxis and EpiPens. We like to know who on the lake has EpiPens just so we keep an eye on them. And then just some really great tips if you're going to be coming up to have a nice healthy week at camp. We really encourage kibos and latrine use, upping your fluids and making sure you're adding fiber to that meal planning when you're starting to plan your menus. Make sure you're including some apples and all that good stuff. TLC is the best for homesickness. Like I said, we do have some beds that we can keep youth in if they're really having a hard time, but we really do feel that they do better out with their friends on site. And then making sure that there's enough downtime and plenty of nighttime rest included. So that's kind of what we do at the clinic, and I'm happy at the end to answer any other questions or if there's anything specific, you can always reach out.
Thank you.
Chris.
Alrighty. So now that we've kind of talked about what we have at the camp, we're going to talk about what it's like when you get here. So when you get to Haliburton Scout Reserve, you'll drive into our parking lot where our lovely staff will greet you. And you will park your car and you're going to look around and you're going to go, is my entire group here? And you're probably going to go, no, they're not. And that's okay. You guys can just hang out and just wait until your entire group does arrive. Our staff will come up to you and say, hi, like, who are you with? That kind of thing. Once your entire group is there, you will head to our check-in lodge, which you can kind of see in this picture here behind the smiling scouts. And you will meet Tia probably, and she will just pretty much take all your paperwork, double check that the site that you requested or booked matches with everything going on. And she'll just take a copy of pretty much all your papers and set up some times. And the times that she'll be setting up are equipment barges, bill paying, and inspection. So you can see all the forms there, and it will go through the equipment barges. Equipment barges are barges that pick up your gear from the site a little earlier that you might not be using. So a lot of people set up a big dining shelter. And they don't really need that after the Thursday evening, right? They've made their last dinner. They're good to go. They're going to do a quick and easy breakfast. They like to take down their dining shelter and then send it back off. So on the Saturday, on the Saturday, they take it down and put it on the barge and ship it back early. And that makes it a nice and easy Saturday morning. Bill paying is Friday, and that's when we close out your bill. So it's important to know that all your store charges will be closing around noon. And I believe it's Thursday, Tia, correct me if I'm wrong, for the trading post.
For the trading post, it closes at the end of the day on Thursday. And then the country store, they close at 11 a.m. sharp on Friday.
Yep. And this is just to allow time for us to tally all of the numbers and add it to your charge. So please don't come into the office and then say, oh, we actually need all of this stuff added on, because it really slows down the bill paying, and we are on a tight schedule just to try and get through everybody in one afternoon. And then we also have inspection times. So inspection times are the time that we come out to your site and inspect that you haven't damaged any trees, you have all of your gear, basically that you're ready to go. We do have inspection sheets that we set or hand out at the skippers meeting, and I can share around with the copy of the slides. But it's basically, have you dug a new Kaibo hole for the next group? Have you put out any fires, completely put out any fires that have been running? All of your gear is down, tent pegs removed, essentially, etc. Just that you guys are ready to go. Once you guys pass your inspection, you guys will be taken out on the nearest barge after that. Sometimes we do get a little behind depending on how inspections go. So just be patient with us. We are operating as fast as we can so that we can get the new groups in that afternoon. And it is also very important to know that we do fail inspections. We get probably one a week of people who do not pass their inspections. So make sure you follow the sheet. And if you have questions or if you need help getting ready for inspection, just ask the staff and we'll do what we can.
All right, so right after you talk to Chris and or Tia in the lodge and get your bookings sorted out, you're going to go talk to me or potentially another program supervisor about confirming your program bookings. Now, for the most part, what we're just going to talk about at this section is just making sure your schedule matches our schedule. I've seen it once or twice every single week where someone just accidentally writes down Wednesday instead of Thursday for an activity, or 1:30 instead of 2:30. And so we just compare our schedules and make sure what you have written down in your notes matches what we have done in our schedules, and possibly move stuff around to make sure you have all the programs you want to attend at camp. This is also the place where we book additional programs such as your star hikes, canoe rentals for like Voyager trips, advanced kayaking lessons, and this is when we'd book the Sunday morning canoe lesson so that all of your scouts can or guides can learn how to paddle the canoes and traverse our lake. If for whatever reason you decide you wanted a program but weren't sure of it, or wanted to see where it fit into your schedule, You can also come talk to any of us later on in this week, and we can additionally add or take off or move around your program. So even on Saturday when you arrive, it's not set in stone. You can still make changes as long as there's space available. But we ask that everyone do submit like their bookings beforehand, because you never know what space is going to be available. There's up to like a dozen different groups around the lake all signing up for activities, and I recommend booking those before you show up, so that there's a better chance of you being able to have the availability you want. At this time, you will also need to inform us if you're going on any planned hikes, any outings. If you wish to hike across our massive property and see some of the other lakes, some of the trails, we do want you to tell us in advance. That way, when you do leave, we know when to expect you not to be there, and most importantly, when to expect you to return, so that if you don't return, we know to look for you. And then after you check in and confirm all your bookings, that's when we'll check you off and say that you're ready to head to your site, and we'll get you and your equipment on our barges to take across the lake. Almost every single one of our sites needs the barges to reach, and even the one or two that are next to the main hub area of camp, we recommend we take you out on the barge anyways, because it's not exactly easy to carry that equipment from the road all the way over to your campsite. But yeah, I think we can move on to the next slide.
All right, so all of that happens that we just talked about on Saturday. On Sunday morning, this is when we get to do some more fun. So Sunday morning, we have two things going on. The first one I'll talk about is Skipper's Meeting. So this is when we pick up one of your scouters or guiders from your site, and also a senior youth to come with you over to the hub, and we go over a bunch of information that you need to know for your stay with us. So we highlight a lot of aspects of the Scouter's Guide, if you've taken a look at that. And this starts about 10 a.m. So we will come around and pick you up on our one of our barges and bring you over to the hub for that. And like I said, we're just going over some key information. And if there's any other additional information you need to know for the week, some examples of that could be we've had fire bans, and so we share with that what that looks like, and any kind of other safety aspects that you need to know while you're staying with us, and where all of our events and programs and other important buildings are around the property. We share with you where those are, so then you can be more oriented with who's on the property and where things are. Also occurring on Sunday morning, we have canoe lessons. So as we mentioned previously, your whole transportation for the week is canoes. So how that works is your group will be picked up at a designated time, which you book with Lucas or another program staff on the Saturday of when we will pick you up for your canoe lesson. We bring you over to the hub area, and we teach you everything you need to know about canoeing: how to canoe, how to paddle, all the different parts of it, what you need to wear and what needs to be in your canoe. And then we send you on your way. You pick up your canoes for however many you need for your site with how many people you have. And then we send you off, and you get to use that for the whole week. And then some people have questions about how that works at the end of the week. At the end of the week, on the Friday evening, you bring your canoe back for campfire, and then you leave your canoes there, and then we'll barge you back to your site after campfire, so then you don't have to worry about your canoes anymore. Okay, and so the rest of your week, your Monday to Friday, what does that look like? So this is your time, which you've already booked ahead of time, your program for the week. So that you can have program booked all day, every day, Monday to Friday, if you would like to, or you can have a lot of free time. A lot of groups, it depends what they want to be doing. We've had groups come up that do just a couple of our program and do their own stuff on their own site, which you are more than welcome to do. So you can stick to your own agenda. You can do all of our programs, whatever you would like to do. And with that, just some store orders that Chris already highlighted. If you're looking for stuff for during your week there, just like we said before, please let us know ahead of time so that we can get that for you from the store. And with your Monday to Friday, it does sometimes rain, which is a sad day. But if it does rain and we're able to book you another lesson for later in the week, we will absolutely do our best to get you in there so that you're able to enjoy all that we have to offer.
All right, so these are the some of the programs we offer at camp. This doesn't include, I believe this does not include our hiking or our advanced kayaking or our canoe lesson at the very beginning on Sunday. However, these are all the Monday to Friday programs you can book throughout the week. Just going to very briefly tell you some important details about some of them. A lot of these programs run for hour-long time slots. Some of them run for an hour and a half long time slots, which are the climbing wall and rappelling. And then sailing would run for a 3-hour long time slot. A lot of these programs, there are some limitations involved with them. For example, you can only have 2 people going down the rappelling cliff at once, or we have a limited number of paddle boards or kayaks for people to use. There's limited space on the archery deck or the airsoft deck. So if you have a really big group, you might have to consider how long it would take to get your entire group down the cliff, or having a chance to shoot at the range, or being able to fit everyone on a paddleboard. So if you check in with us on on Saturday morning or at any time through the week, it might be a good idea to book a second one of any of these lessons so that you can get all of you able to participate. Keeping in mind as well, travel time is another big thing. These lessons run at a from 9 to 10, 10 to 11, 11 to 12, like the hour runs do, and then 1:30 to 2:30, 2:30 to 3:30, and 3:30 to 4:30. The hour and a half lessons, those would run from 9 to 10:30, 10:30 to 12, and they'd also run after lunchtime from 1:30 to 3, 3 to 4:30. 3-hour lessons, they start at 9 to 12, 1:30 to 4:30. So there's a lot of programs to go through, so I would check in once you've actually booked your program and you come to camp, and we'll let you know how many paddle boards you might have or how many kayaks you might have, or whether or not we recommend booking another lesson. Yeah, star hikes are the special one in this list. These are the only ones that don't run during the day. Obviously, you need to see the stars at night for this to work. And the way a star hike works, because it's not immediately apparent just by reading the title, this is where we would actually take your groups out on our lovely barges out into the middle of the lake. And that's where we'd spend about an hour telling stories about the constellations, getting to see our beautiful dark zone night sky, and as you're floating out in the middle of the lake where it's quiet and it's a beautiful sight, gets to listen to some stories. Some people will fall asleep. But I think we can move on to the next slide. On top of our regularly scheduled programming, we also have several camp-wide events. On Tuesday, it's our badge trading night. It starts at 7 p.m. and goes on until wherever late curfew is for that week. Even if you don't trade badges, it's still a great place to meet groups from the campsites, potentially from other parts of the world, meet brand new people. And if you do have badges, then feel free to bring them. Trading badges has always been a fun place to meet other people who enjoy scouting. On Thursday, we have the regatta, which is a big camp-wide water competition. We'll do races like canoeing, kayaking, swimming, And then we also have these big war canoes that you can see in the picture down there that we race against each other. For these groups, we'd have the scouts competing against other scouts, and the venturers competing against other venturers. If you have like one venturer but several scouts, the scouts can also participate in the venture category, but the venturer cannot participate in the scout category. Essentially, a younger kid can go into an older kid's event, but we don't want the older kid absolutely crushing everyone in the younger kid event. This takes place a Thursday at about 1:30. When you show up to regatta, there'll be a skippers meeting right behind the program center that you'll see on the waterfront there, where we'll go over some of the rules. And it's just a fun day. Some people tend to get competitive with it, but we encourage you guys to just have fun, let them have fun. Everyone's out there to have an amazing time, and it's a really fun day. We play music. Some of the staff get to dance on the observation deck and entertain. It's really good. And then on Friday, we actually have two campfire events. We have the shoot off, which you would send a scout, a venturer, and a leader. Again, younger kids can compete in older categories, but the older can't compete down. To participate in the shoot off, where it's like an archery and a riflery competition. You can send the two different competitions. You can send one in each category to each of archery and riflery, and you'll be able to compete to see who gets the better score. The campfire is also on Friday. The campfire is taking place. Oh, actually, I should have mentioned before I moved on. The shoot off would also take place at 1:30. If you have any events scheduled on 1:30, let us know in advance so that if you can't show up right at 1:30, our archer instructor or our rifle instructor knows when to be at the range for your shoot off. We like to get them all done at 1:30, and then once people are done, we need those staff members to like pack up and move on with other activities throughout the day. And then if someone wanders in at like 3:30 and no one's there, then you should have told someone that you were coming. But moving on to the campfire now. The campfire takes place, I believe, at around 8. We ask you to be at the campfire by 8, and then we'll usually start around 8:30. It's this great night where all the groups get to come over to this huge bonfire we have. Everyone gets to bring their songs and skits to perform for everyone else. It's a really fun night. Usually goes on for about like 1 to 2 hours, depending on like how many groups we have at camp. And after campfire, it kind of doubles as a canoe check-in, where you would return all the canoes you signed out, and then we'd barge you back to your campsites Friday night, so that after the campfire, you don't have any canoes left at your site, and you can get ready to get your stuff packed up for being barged out the next Saturday morning. Do come with a song or a skit prepared, and then when you show up to bring your canoes, you'll just let someone know so that they can hand that off to the campfire people and get you called up for your part of the fun festivities. Right, we can move on.
All right, so Steve and I were asked to be part of this presentation today as, basically to answer questions, and there's an opportunity to do that, and to talk a little bit about the varied experiences that you might have actually bringing your group to Haliburton, particularly if you haven't been before. But even if you have, one of the things that I've found over the years is that we really do tend to learn from all of the other people that we meet, and we see somebody else has a great idea and we go, why on earth didn't we ever think of that? And in all the years of bringing scouts and venturers to Haliburton. I learned something new from another group pretty much every year, and it's a good opportunity to do that. There's many different ways that you can organize your camp, and I think one of the things that if you're new to this, you're maybe getting the impression is it's your camp. The HSR staff is there to help facilitate and support and run program that you want and provide resources, but it's otherwise it's your camp. So it's your week at camp. You do it the way you want to. Every troop is different. Every company is different. As I said at the outset, we very often, for many, many years, when areas were a thing, we did it as an area composite contingent. So maybe a half dozen troops and companies from our area would kind of get together, and we'd have some people that would sort of organize it. We would always do a kind of a central kitchen. And when we did it as an area event, we organized most of that, so that the youth, for the most part, didn't have a lot of cooking and cleaning to do, but they could spend a lot of their time participating in program activities and having a great time. Other troops, they come, and it's like a patrol style camp that you might do any other time of the year. And each patrol does their own menu, arranges their food, does their cooking in kind of their own fashion. Last year, our troop kind of did it a little bit halfway between the two, because it was sort of the first time that we had come not as an area. And as I said at the outset, it was our first, it was the first time the camp was open post-pandemic. And so we kind of did a mix of the two. We still organized the central kitchen, and the scouters kind of did some of the meals, and we did that so that the youth had lots of time to get to their activities. That's one of the things on the slide is this whole issue of getting to and from the activities, and be prepared for the schedule to be, I don't want to say fierce, it's not, but to get all the program in, and you'll probably want to do everything. And the only way to do that, you really, really got to pay attention to the schedule, and you've got to be smart about, I want to say particularly the midday meal. And very often, sometimes that means something you can take with you or something you can eat quickly, because by the time everybody paddles back from their morning activity, depending on where you are on the lake and where your activity was, that could be a bit of time. And then you've got to get your meal organized, get everybody fed, and then you got to get back in the canoes and get out to wherever your afternoon activity is. And that was the first time I went to Haliburton, that kind of threw me a bit, because it was a really kind of, it was a real, go kind of schedule. And as I got used to it, as I started anticipating that when you do your planning, you think about that, and hopefully your pretty much your schedule before you plan your menu and before you decide on duty roster and things like that. So it's definitely there's many different ways to do it. You can organize it how you wish, but those are some things to take into account when you do your planning. Tia did mention earlier all about what the country store can do for you, and I would underscore take advantage of that. They're fantastic in how they can arrange to get stuff in for you, and instead of spending a whole bunch of time running into town and shopping, because you're not going to be able to bring food that's going to last you for a week, they can help you out with that, and it really shortens the time to keep things going. We kind of have a tradition that we eat like kings and queens when we go to Haliburton. It's summer camp. It's the summation of the whole year, and they eat well, and they really, really eat. They do adventurous things. This is not hot dogs and hamburgers. When we go, it's jambalaya, it's eggs Benedict in the morning, it's custom omelet bar where a couple of usually our senior youth will cook custom omelets to order for everybody in the troop. It's funnel cakes, it's all of those kind of things. So for our perspective, it's always been a really big deal thing. but it can be whatever you want it to be. Just make sure that you've got a really good plan for time. Getting to and from the activities, as I said, is a thing you've really got to plan for. I mean, they're paddling everywhere. And if you're new, you may have some really, really novice paddlers. And you've got to make sure that you allow the time for them to be able to make it. There also will be some kids in your group that by the end of the week, they're starting to get a little tired. They're getting a little bit run down. And you may actually find that they don't want to go to a couple of things. And we've always said that's okay, as long as we can make sure we provide appropriate supervision for them. It's their camp. They don't absolutely have to do something, because I don't think there's anything worse than being forced to go to something if you really don't feel like it. And one of the key points, it's on the slide there, is downtime for scouters. Anyone who knows me knows that I agree with the belief that if it isn't fun, it isn't scouting, and that applies to volunteers as much as it does to the youth. Quite frankly, I agree with Gary. The ones that are tired at the end of the week are the scouters, but it's a different kind of tired. It's the kind of tired that you still smile. And it's a fun week for the scouters as well. And if you've planned for it, it's very much it's unlike anything else that you're going to do with your scouts all year. Maybe you get to try some activities that you haven't done before. Maybe you've never been rappelling. Maybe you haven't been in a kayak or a sailboat. There's all sorts of things that are going to be challenges for the scouters as well. If you have the ability to bring enough scouters, you can send some off to activities, and you can have some, really not doing anything. One of the things we always do is that we very deliberately, round about Thursday, we schedule a downtime slot. We schedule a half day where absolutely there's no scheduled activities. So if they want to bum around the site and have fun, that's great. If they want to go for a swim or a paddle, that's great. If they want to go over and check out a kayak and play around with that for a bit, that's great. If they want to do absolutely nothing, if they want to be horizontal in their tent, that's also great. And we typically do that about Thursday morning, because that's about the point in the week where it really, really you start to need it at any week-long camp. And then you get a bit of a recharge on Thursday, you sleep really well Thursday night, and then you're pretty good for your last day. And Thursday afternoon, of course, is also regatta. So if people want to practice or organize themselves for regatta, they can use their downtime Thursday morning to do that as well. It also gives you a slot that if you get rained out from something, like we tried to do rappelling twice last summer, and we got washed out both times. But we did have a slot that we could try and put it into, and then we got washed out of that slot as well. But that happens. But it's if you leave one or two holes in the schedule, as Lucas said, you can play around with things, and you can ask to change activities, or you can fit other things in. That gives you a bit of an opportunity to do it. But it's, make it your own. Make a big deal out of it too. So when we go, the package includes, your week at camp, your food, that's what, and we price it. I think we priced it at $4.95 last year. It'll be a little more this year because the prices went up a bit. But it includes your crest, it includes your food, it includes all your program stuff, and we do a T-shirt. It includes your T-shirt for the year. We thought we were being kind of unique, and we picked a really visible one, Safety Orange, and then we found out 10th Waterloo, who was there the same week, and they also had Safety Orange custom T-shirts, which was hilarious. But make a big deal out of it and make it an experience. That would be kind of my advice.
Andy,
Yeah.
Quick question. It's Evan Young from 58 Toronto. Just a logistics question around how you use the country store. How many resupply runs do you plan on in terms and sort of what food would you like? I assume it's most of your perishables and stuff, but just wondering what you found works best in terms of timing for that.
we actually did two things last year. One of the things that we always do is we bring our trailer because that's how most of our gear gets there. But then usually we leave some coolers in the trailer, and the stuff that you don't want to touch for 3 or 4 or 5 days, heavily iced, can actually sit in the trailer for a while. So some of our stuff was kind of in that boat. And typically what we would do every second day is sort of about what we would do. We'd go down, we'd get the stuff that we wanted to out of the coolers in the trailer, and then we'd swing by the country store and pick up our order from there. And we'd sort of, again, they like it if you sort of arrange the time that you're going to be doing it. So they know that when they're going to go into town that day, they're going to grab their stuff, and you're going to be by sometime before supper time to pick it up. And so we sort of did that kind of every second day. That we found that was, about what worked really well in terms of keeping, the fresh food at the site, what we could keep under ice, because we'd order ice from the store every day and add that, but there's a limit as to how far you want to go. And some of the real, salad, for instance, lettuce, it gets pretty funky after a couple of days sitting around in a cooler. So I think we got that every second day. There was some towards the end of the week, we had a meal that we wanted a whole bunch of chicken for, and we very carefully scheduled that so that we could go grab it. We didn't really have to store a bunch of raw chicken around the campsite for very long. We basically got it after lunch that day, and it was that day's supper. So it's a little bit being strategic in how you plan. If you do it any more than every second day, you're spending too much time doing that. Yeah. And it starts to take away from your time to do other things. So that's kind of, we found every second or at most every third day is about the sweet spot.
No, that's really helpful. Thanks.
Spencer,
There are
you also
more questions. Do people want to jump in who have questions?
I have a question.
go ahead.
Go ahead.
Do I need to bring a tent?
Yep.
No.
So you'll want to bring a tent, and we'll talk a little bit about more about what to bring on the next slide.
Spencer, who else has a question? Anybody else? There's a few other hands. No. So I'll just jump in. Andy did a great job explaining everything there. Just so everybody knows, there's lots of opportunities and lots of different things to do on different sites at the camp, and like in terms of programming that exists, being off the main camp. So the picture that or the map that Chris showed early on is just like a very small portion of the camp. So when you're programming, you may decide you want to keep a day for a day hike. There's a gorge. Pikes Peak is fantastic. You can do those in the same day. High Falls is a great hike for an afternoon. So there's just lots of opportunities to do lots of different things around the camp. So just staying on this site is not the only thing to do. And then just to sort of put perspective on what you can do, like I've only ever taken my troop, and when I was in Scouts, the same thing, and did patrol camping. So there's lots of sites that accommodate patrols to camp totally on their own, and the store will accommodate the youth shopping in the store themselves if you want to. So they'll set up a charge account, and then you just keep track on patrol budgets or however you want to do that. So any way that you want to sort of experience the camp in terms of how you run program in your troop, those options exist. So I'll stop there. We can probably move on to the next slide unless there's more people with more questions.
Sorry. No, go ahead, David.
Sorry, this question for Andy. Andy, you mentioned $495 is how much you charge your camper. That include the $299 or $250?
Yeah, so the way we kind of worked that up, that was with I think last year's camp price was $249, and then when we added the food and the crest and t-shirt, a couple of other things, and I think that wound up being $495. So with camp being I think $50 more this year, I would assume we're going to be probably in the neighborhood of $550 all inclusive. And that's also, spreading the cost, some of the cost of our scouters across the youth that are paying and everything else. Our group philosophy has been that, it's our scouters volunteer their time. We don't expect them to volunteer their dollars as well. So there's a bit of a build in for that. And then our group also budgets to send, the basic, 2 deep scouters to Haliburton every year. And then we cover any extras out of, the calculation. But I'm expecting that it'll probably be about $550 this year all in.
Okay, just on
That
the
includes,
you said
sorry?
that just on the latter part, the 2 deep rule being, there's 8. If there's 8 kids, you're going to want to have 2 scatters. Only you have 16, you have 4, right? So you, as a group, you say, okay, we're going to pay for 4 scatters. We're going to average that, or we're going to subtract that from the total cost of all the scatters. So if like 10 scatters go, you're still only paying for 4, and they're paying a smaller amount. That makes sense to me. Thanks.
Yeah, and it really, we kind of we sort of have an idea, because when we're doing our planning for the year, we sort of already kind of know that Haliburton's on the agenda. And I mean, I already know which of my scouters are available because we've been talking about dates for months. So I have a very good handle right now on how many scouters I've got coming next summer, including all the ones that couldn't manage to schedule it last year. And they said, tell me as soon as you know the date for next year, because they absolutely want to be there. And we've got a couple of them coming. So yeah, I know that number now, and I just do that calculation as to, and we basically charge the scouters in that case kind of the equivalent of what their food is going to cost, because they'd have to eat for the week even if they were at home, but certainly not the camp fee and things like that. We spread that across all the participants.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'll just talk real quick about this, Andy, if that's all right. Andy and I didn't practice any of this, but this list is pretty good. I mean, essentially, you take it, if you've ever planned for weeks worth of camping in terms of materials, it's basically the same as a weekend. You just need to bring twice as many backups, because twice as many things will go wrong because you have twice as many days or more. But this is essentially a really good list of things. One thing to note is that clear garbage bags are what the camp wants, not black ones. That way you can see that you're sorting your recyclings and those things. And anything you forget, the store can help you out and grab for you. But essentially, you're looking at packing everything that you would need for a regular weekend camp. Just bring more backups, because that's essentially how it works. They've talked a little bit about the barges that bring you to. They'll lend you a shovel. The maintenance department will lend you a shovel, because then they don't have to dig one. But they talked about the barges. So the barges are just, there's a picture, but it's just a flat boat. It's a pontoon boat. So just know that sometimes things get wet. So like there's lots of Rubbermaid containers there, and those black and yellow ones. Those are great for carrying things into the island. And then when you look at the site, if you've never booked the site before, there is sort of some topo information. So sometimes the sites, there's a little bit of a crest to get over to get to where you're going to be camping. So just a few things to like think about if you've never been there before, and look into and have a plan for that. But essentially, that list is pretty good. And that's pretty much all I'd have to say about that. Andy, I don't know if there's anything else you want to add in.
Yeah, I would very much second the bring backups for backups. As an example, last year, despite all of our years of camping at Haliburton, we discovered that everybody was very, very short of bug repellent. And just a word, if anybody wants to, camp at Haliburton in July, you're going to need bug repellent. And you're going to need a fair quantity of it. So that was an example of a thing that we actually had one scouter who was only coming in for 2 or 3 days to help with just day support, but he couldn't get the rest of the time off. So we sent him a text and said, when you're on your way in tomorrow, can you bring? But you don't always have the opportunity to get things like that. So yeah, backups for backups. Keep in mind that one of the things people tend to do is they tend to think of coolers for keeping cold food cold, but they tend not to necessarily think of all of your dry goods and all of your not cold food has still got to be in something that's going to be wildlife proof. And that's usually a bit of a scramble. That's another thing where they said leaving our trailer in the parking lot. We can kind of play with that too, because it gives us a little bit of extra storage. It's kind of like at least we've got a lockup, and we don't necessarily bring all of our backups to the campsite with us. If there's something that we really need, we can go back to the trailer and we can grab it. And that, is a little bit of a pain, but if you bring all of your stuff with you, there's been a few things on about the inspection and pack up and barge out process on Saturday morning, and that's a bit of a scramble. So if there's any stuff that you can, or even stuff, and it was mentioned that you can pack up some of your stuff and get rid of it beforehand, it certainly makes the Saturday morning go an awful lot better. Because you don't get your okay to get barged out until you pass your inspection. And we kind of put the fear of what into our youth as far as that what will happen if they don't pass the inspection, and how late they're going to be getting home, and what they're going to have to tell their parents. And they actually did an unbelievably fantastic job this past year of making sure the site was clean and perfect. To be honest, I've never seen a site inspection go that smoothly. But they really did believe that it was going to be a significant hardship if we didn't pass the inspection, and how late that was going to be. We tend to take a lot of big gear. As I said, we make a real production of the week at camp. We certainly don't pack light, and that means that it's a number of barge trips to get back out. But yeah, packing stuff in really good watertight containers does help. Remind your youth that they need to waterproof their own gear as well, because their gear will be going over on the barge. And they need to make sure it's relatively waterproof, because you do get a bit of chop and swell and you get stuff splashing up, and I wouldn't want to see somebody's sleeping gear be wet for the very first night at camp and try to figure out how to dry it out. The other little piece of advice on that, and you'll see mention of clear garbage bags. Only bring clear garbage bags for any purpose, whether it's garbage, recycling, waterproofing. And this is something that we remind our youth of every camp we take them to, is that a black garbage bag full of sleeping bag looks exactly like a black garbage bag full of garbage. And we know that things have got thrown out from time to time because something couldn't be seen what it was. So you can use clear garbage bags for waterproofing all over the place, but only use clear garbage bags, and that way you can very easily see what's in it.
Go ahead, Lucas.
There's a hand up. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I also wanted to add, in terms of clear garbage bags, it's not just because you need to be able to see what's inside the bag. At Haliburton, the dump has very, very strict rules about what garbage they will accept. And if we have our stuff in like non-clear garbage bags, they straight up won't take it from us. And we don't want all these black garbage bags full of junk that we can't get rid of at camp.
I'm just going to share in the chat. We've built a patrol manual for Haliburton for the last number of years. It'll be a Google Doc. You'll have to make a copy of it, but I was just going to share it in the chat. It's a resource that we've built over a long period of time. Some of you might, like from the 80s, some of you might remember Scout Sys. Looks like it there. So yeah, go ahead and take that and use it as you will. There's a bunch of stuff in there, like a shopping list thing and a bunch of other things that we do. So hopefully that can be useful.
All right, so Andy and Steve touched on this, but we'll just highlight a few things. So downtime is also very important at camp. You don't want to just always be go, go, go with your activities. So feel free to make your own schedule and schedule in that downtime to do nothing and just hang out on your site. Relax, take some time to enjoy the outdoors. Maybe that's just being on your site and enjoying the water that's there, because it's absolutely beautiful. Maybe you want to go on a hike and see other parts of the property, whatever that may be. There's also a great time to work on outdoor adventure skills in the various aspects. Like I think almost every one we can do on the property. like the different types of outdoor adventure skills. So feel free to work on those on your site if you want to practice axe, like how to use an axe or fire making or anything like that. Feel free to do that. And sometimes it's also nice to get off the property. So there's some cool stuff around Haliburton if your group would like to go. There's a wolf sanctuary from the Haliburton Forest, which is very cool to go to if your group is interested in that. That's just outside the town of Haliburton. There's also the Kinmount Movie Theater, which is also very cool to go to. We always bring our staff to that. It's kind of like a museum in there with like old movie artifacts in there, in a cute little movie theater that also has rescue cats there. It's really cute if you want to bring your group out to that. So just schedule downtime, enjoy all the time that you have there, make the most of it.
So one thing I'll say about fundraising, so my group does this thing where we continuously fundraise for kids camps. So we keep a camp bank throughout the year for fundraising. So $550, Andy said, I think that's about what we charged last year. So ours will probably be similar up like this year. But we continuously fundraise for big events to try and soften the burden for parents. So if you do 2 shifts at Apple Day, we put $30 in your camp bank. We run a fundraiser for gift cards. If anybody's interested in that, it's a really good one. But we do that personally, like whatever you raise goes into your camp bank. So kids can constantly throughout the year be fundraising towards that because it's a big chunk of change. And we take deposits, early in the year, like November, to again spread out that cost. But that might be something that's helpful for people as they consider thinking about going forward for fundraising.
Yeah, our group does it a little differently, but it's a lot of the concepts are the same. So I mean, we do the fundraisers that you would expect that most groups do. We do popcorn, we do Apple Day. We've got a couple of other community things that we do that earn funds for certain things, and particularly the way our group does it. Apple Day is kind of towards group things. Popcorn is very much towards what the individuals do. So the families that participate in popcorn fundraising, they earn, we call them Bolton bucks. They're essentially Monopoly money. We actually print it. It looks kind of like Monopoly money. It's on the correct colors for Monopoly money. And they can use that for any group activity. The ones that are going to come to the big camps, like something like Haliburton, they're going to hang on to those and save them up, and they're going to use them towards this. But in reality, they can use it for anything. If they can use it for all sections camp, they can actually use it to pay their dues if they want to. But it's entirely the family's choice how they fund things like that. We will also sometimes do fund, if a section wants to put on their own fundraiser. As an example, our Venturers and Rovers just did a bottle drive over the last couple of weeks because they're going to a moot in February and they wanted to fund that. But they could just as easily organize an event like that and specifically say, we want to raise funds just to defray the cost of our section going to Haliburton, and then we would apply that, based on, again, how much each person contributed to the fundraiser, and we would discount it by that. But yeah, it's got to be a plan ahead thing. If you're going to decide in June that you're going to go to Haliburton in July, and you can, and I know groups that have done that, but that's a real, suddenly a big bill for the families, and particularly if you've got families that have got 2 or 3 youth in the family that are going, and we've got several of those families. So imagine, that's a $2,000 summer camp experience. We do have, however, remind people of what other summer camps cost. If you look at what the YMCA does, or you look at what any other organization does, if you look at what your local town or city recreation department does for summer opportunities, there's nobody that's going to get anything in the ballpark of $500 or $600. A 5-day summer camp at one of those organizations is going to start at $1,000 and it's going to go north from there. So we do share that with the parents and say, look, if you're looking for, once in a lifetime experience for your youth, this is the absolute best value for money that you're ever going to get, is coming to something like this. For this kind of experience, if any other organization was doing it, I would bet that'd be $1,500 for a 7-day camp. Now, it doesn't make it any easier to pay for, except sometimes for the family, it makes it a little easier to, kind of allocate their resources. And they go, oh yeah, this is something that's worth putting a little bit of money aside for. And we do share it as early as we can in the year. We're actually very much behind this year, in that I just a couple of weeks ago actually booked our campsite for the summer. So if anybody's going to be there week 4, come around to Bedford Park and say hi. But that's a lot later than we normally would, because we were really trying to get something going as a sort of a composite camp again, and that fell through. So we just booked something for our troop, and we're going to invite a neighboring troop to come with us as well, because the site's big enough. But normally, yeah, we'd be telling people about it in September when we kind of laid out the plan for the year. And yeah, we'd be gathering expressions of interest probably in November, as far as an actual list of people that wanted to come. And that's for, late July.
Great. So we're just kind of wrapping up the end of the presentation. Just a few more things to go through before we get to a Q&A if you guys have any more questions. Something that we are trying this year is to help groups kind of pair with another group. So we're acting like your Tinder, I guess you could say, for other groups. So the idea is that if there is a group that may not have too many scouters or youth, but they're interested in going, but they're don't think that they can get the numbers to get a campsite to themselves, we can match you up with a group that is willing to host a couple members. And I say host pretty loosely. I do think that you guys should be working together, as it's also a great opportunity for you to learn how to bring your own group if maybe you're a little nervous on bringing a large group of people with you. So if I were really nervous of bringing my group of 30. Maybe this year I'm going to take a couple youth who are really keen, and I'm going to go with another group. We're going to test it out. We're going to see how they plan it, what their week looks like. And then that way the next year, I'm going to feel so much more prepared and confident on bringing my own larger group. So if you guys are a small group and you don't think you'll have the numbers, feel free to sign up. And if you are a group that might be interested in getting a couple scouters and a couple of youth from another group to introduce them to the camp, or maybe they've been before, but their composite isn't running, that sort of thing, just to kind of match groups together and make it easier for people to come.
All right, so we have a lot of great resources on our website. I very highly recommend that you go check it out. We've been working really hard to build it this year. So on our website, under the resources tab, you'll find a lot of helpful information for you. On there, you'll find the Scouter's Guide, which is anything and everything you would ever need to know about camping at HSR and what you need to bring and how to prepare for it. So I definitely recommend reading through that. It is a little lengthy, so maybe drink it with your coffee. There's also the camp roster form on there. So you do have to provide your camp roster upon your arrival and check-in. So we know everybody that is on your site for that week. All youth and all scouters are on there. So you can find that form on our website. Under the Book Today tab, you'll find the campsite information. Click on there, and then you'll be able to learn about all of our campsites on the property. There's maps for each one. There's photos. The minimums you need to have to book that site. Some are larger than others. And then most sites have drone footage of an aerial view. We weren't able to get all of them this past summer, but we'll be working on expanding those. So if you're really curious on what you need for your site, what it looks like, or any other information that you need, please check out our website. It will definitely help you out. And if you find that there's something you can't quite find or some more questions, you are always welcome to message us on our social media, on Facebook or Instagram, or you can email us too.
And currently, our staff applications are now open. So if you have any youth who are really keen within scouting or guiding, HSR is a great opportunity for a place to work. There are a bunch of different positions. So we have our staff in training, which are typically around 15 years of age. And then we have program staff, so they get to help out on all the programs that we offer. We have maintenance staff, so they get to help with the tending of the grounds, construction, repair, stuff like that, more of the trade skills. We have kitchen assistants, so they help out and help feed all of the staff in the kitchen. We have store clerks, so to keep our country store and the trading post running, we have to have people in there. And then for the staff in training, they also get to try each department. So every week they kind of rotate around to each department to try them out, and it's a great opportunity to get put something on your resume. It's really hard when you're first starting out to have anything on your resume. It gets you your volunteer hours for high school. It kind of gives you ideas of what you might be interested in into your future career. It's just honestly, it's where I started back in 2013, and now I'm the camp director. So if that says anything, I think it's a great opportunity for people who want to do something with their entire summer. We do a lot of fun things. We have a bunch of staff recs. We do Christmas in July. We do Halloween. We make it a fun opportunity for everybody who comes to work. And again, you can find the applications at hsrcamp.ca. We are working on getting them on the scouts.ca website. That just takes a little more time on their end.
All right, before we dive into our lovely Q&A session, we just wanted to let you know that after this orientation, we're going to be sending out a survey. So please keep an eye out in your email for that. It may go to your junk folder first, so please look there. This survey is to help us see how we can improve these kind of events and see what's working and what's not working. So please just take the few minutes to fill that out. It honestly doesn't take long. So thank you so much for doing that.
All right.
Yeah.
Sorry. And so now we're just going to do a Q&A. So if you have any questions, feel free to raise your hand, or if you have them in the chat, you can type them into the chat. We have been kind of answering questions in the chat throughout the thing. So you can also kind of browse through there. Alrighty. So the first one, we've got Christopher Hart.
Yeah, hi everybody. Thank you. Christopher Hartman, by the way. So
oh, sorry.
Got cut off. No problem. This might be a question more for Andy and Stephen as far as your experiences at camp. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like when you're getting ready to sign up for daily programs, you don't do that until you arrive at camp. Is that correct? Or
there's a pre-booking system, so you book ahead of time. And then obviously when you get there, the staff tells you this is broken and that's broken and you can't do this day. But like you pre-book it, and so you have a schedule. So in the manual I put out, I put the schedule in for the kids so they see ahead of time what we're doing, and it helps with that.
Okay. And so I guess then for Chris Ballman, when is that going to be available to schedule for the week we're scheduled to be out there?
I'm hoping within the next month. The way we did it, so everything moved online through the pandemic, and we had been doing everything with a very old program called Microsoft Access, which no longer really exists. So we had to move everything online. And in that process, we are experiencing hiccups and user error on both sides. So people who are booking program are struggling because it is not the most user-friendly program, specifically for what we are using it for, and also issues on our side where I know we had it set up so that I think it was rappelling was the entire afternoon, which is not accurate to how we actually operate. It's an hour and a half. So we are working on it. We just want to make sure we're doing it properly, and we want to improve from last year's.
Okay, thank you.
Evan, you have your hand up?
Actually, yeah, but my question was along the same lines, and it was actually just how to book the programming. But just so I understand, when it goes online, is that like a first come first serve, or do we sort of put in requests for when we'd want it, and you guys sort of triage to make sure people kind of get coverage across the camp? Like, how does that, like, is that sort of like requests that we put in, or is it actually kind of like we go on and book specific times and it's first come first serve? Just wondering how to approach the whole process.
It is first come, first serve. So when it opens up, I will send an email to everybody's contact email that was used for booking, and it will be a first come, first serve basis. We typically limit it to one program booking per. Sometimes two, it kind of depends on the year and what numbers are looking like. We just want to give everybody the opportunity to book a program at least once. If we don't want, say, I'm going to use Steve as an example. He typically has a large group. We don't want him to book riflery every day throughout the entire week so that if he gets rained out, he still has his opportunity, right? So we do want to give everybody the opportunity. It will be first come, first serve. And then when you do your check-in, when you arrive and you see Lucas, he can definitely add more. Again, we want to give people this opportunity. And throughout the week, if you want to, kids have a great time at archery, they can add more.
Great. No, that's helpful. I had one other question just for here. The in terms of the groups, and I guess maybe some of the groups that had gone, like, what's the typical complement of scouters that you would bring, and what's the sort of least and most that have, is functional in that? Like, what should we be aiming for in terms of, we're hopefully kind of 15 plus youth this year. We'll see where we shake out.
I don't like to come with any less than 4. For the same reasons as we always have, that if you're trying to cover 2 spots and be too deep in 2 spots, 4 is kind of your minimum. Now we've got a number of senior youth, particularly rovers, who still come out and camp with us, that have been camping at Haliburton since the first time that we brought them. We basically bring Howler Cub Scouts, Venturers, Rovers. And we've got some youth that have been doing that ever since the first year they were eligible to, and they're scouters now too. So that's actually a big help in our group. And they know Haliburton better than some of our newer scouters do. And they're a great resource for that. But my kind of minimum is 4. And when you get too many, it becomes an economic burden if you're trying to spread that cost across people. So 4 or 5 is kind of the sweet spot. We may bring anywhere from 8 to 20 youth, and we'll probably be 4 or 5 scouters, and that to me is kind of about sits as an ideal camp for us.
I would suggest, I would suggest the optimal ratio is 1 scouter per 1 youth, but that's just me.
Jane?
I wasn't sure if I quite understood the chat when I asked about welcoming another group. Was that someplace on the HSR that I had to comment there, and then you guys would link us up with somebody?
Yeah, so there's a Google form that you can fill out that will go through like what week you would like to go, or what week you were planning on going. And it just ask some other general questions just so that we can try and pair you with a group who might be kind of operating the same way that you operate. As some groups operate very patrol method, and that's what they would like to stick to, and other groups don't want to do that sort of thing. So we do try and kind of match make, but there's a form for you to fill out at the hsrcamp.ca website. I think there's a tab on the top that mentions it.
Okay, I will go and check that out. We're already booked ourselves. We got 15 youth and 3 scouters, maybe 4. We're not sure yet. It all depends on health and circumstances, whether they come or not. So, yeah. Okay.
Alrighty.
For sure. Thank you.
Is that what you got?
David? I think you have your mic muted.
Yes, I did. Sorry about that. So just on booking, follow up on that. Is it one activity per day that you suggest people strive for, or that they book in advance, or is it just one for the whole week? That wasn't clear to me.
So we as a camp recommend that you try everything at least once. It's up to the group whether they want to book their entire day full and make it 3-4 days full of programming, and if nothing gets rained out, then they have the days left over to either do more of the programming if there's space, or if they just want to relax or go on a hike. Andy and Steve might have a little more to say about spreading it out. I think personally I would try and spread it out and alternate between mornings and afternoons off on program. But again, it kind of depends on what's available when you go to book. But yeah.
Yeah, no, that sounds good. It was more would the system allow me to book 2 a day, or is it recommended 1 per day? To be honest, the way it was said on the line, it would just assumed it would be 1 a day, but nobody said the word day, so I was like 1 in a week, and then you go and fill it up. Now I understand that. Do people fish on the lake, or is that not allowed?
Yep, we can fish. We strongly encourage a catch and release policy, and we do barbless hooks. It's also important to note that you do need your fishing license if you're, oh gosh, I can't remember the actual age. I think it's 18. If you're above the age of 18, you have to have a fishing license, which you can do online now, if I'm remembering correctly. And there's also a hunting store in town where if worst case, you can go in town and get one if you need.
The one thing about booking program, Andy sort of alluded to it, like in terms of lunchtime, midday meal, like giving yourself time to do that. But the other one is just where things are located on the lake, right? So you don't want to book something that's at the hub. Like for example, you don't want to book something at the hub and Trapper's Cabin because they're on opposite ends of the lake. So you don't want to book those back to back. So you want to book like kayaking back to back with stand-up paddleboarding or archery and things that are in the same place.
And if that website opens up in a month, and I know it's whenever it's ready, but if it's approximately a month from now, that means to me that I should go out to the youth and make sure that they tell me what rank their priorities before then. Okay, thank you.
Spencer.
Where do I find the Scout handbook that you mentioned earlier on your website? I can't find it.
Let me go there now. I believe there's a resources tab and it's under there. Yep. So if you go to the very top, it says resources. You can click on it and there is a PDF of the Scouter's Guide along with the rest of the forms.
Thank you.
No problem. Lily, you have a question.
Are you able to hear me?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Thanks. Thank you very much for this information session. It's I've got my notes. We are a group in Oakville, and we'll be coming to Haliburton for the first time. So it's very exciting. All the scouts are truly excited. Just wanted to confirm and have 2 questions. In and out for scouters is allowed?
Do you mean leaving the property and coming
Coming back? Yeah, just as you were saying, if they don't get days off from work and come in and out, is that okay?
Yep, that's absolutely okay. I definitely understand that scouters have lives and they have families and jobs they have a commitment to. If a scouter or a youth has to come later on in the week, we can definitely accommodate for that. And it does change the pricing. So I did the math earlier and I do not remember off the top of my head, but it is basically the price of the week is broken down into 5 days, not the entire Saturday to Saturday. After 5 days, you've paid up for the entire week. So if you're there for a day, you pay or for a night, I should say. If you're there for a night, then you pay for your night, and that's it.
Okay, perfect. And second question, I heard, I think Steve mentioned that it was cubs are also allowed. So I was wondering, it says 11 and up. So are we allowed to bring 10.5-year-olds? Are we able to do that as well?
Yep. So technically, there is no age restriction for camping at HSR. We do strongly recommend that if they're younger, they are well prepared. It's a week away from home. I know Cal has talked a little bit about homesickness. Scouts get homesick, so I can imagine cubs will also get very homesick. So just be prepared. And on the program kind of side of things, some of our equipment won't fit cub-sized youth, which is, it's more geared, I guess you could say it's more geared towards 11 and up. Everybody's welcome, but just be prepared that homesickness will most likely happen for cubs, and there might be gear that doesn't fit. And it's, unfortunately, we can't have everything for every size.
Okay, yeah, there's just some little ones who are almost going to be 11 and super eager to come in. So they were begging in the last session. So just thought I'll try and put that in.
Yep.
But thank you very much.
No
Thank
problem.
you. See you week 6. Thank you.
Rebecca. Is that all the questions?
There was a question in the chat about where things are on the lake. So I don't know if you want to go back to the map there, Chris, and point out a few things.
Yeah, sorry, I was muted. We're just looking for where the main hub is related to the other campsites.
Yeah, I can, sorry. It's hard to see on this map. We do have maps on our website, but if you see, so I'm gonna really close to my computer so I can see it. If you see where Twister Point is at the top of the lake, just to the right of that, it says the hub and a bunch of other words that I cannot read, just because the picture is a little smaller. So that's where the main activity area is. The parking lot is the area all the way to the left. Actually, you know what I can do? Here we go. Can you see the laser pointer? Yeah, okay. So the hub is where the laser pointer is. So that's where the main area where most activities are. Kind of riflery is off to the side, and then rappelling is over in this direction. But most of the activities happen around the hub. The parking lot and where you guys start your entire week is over at this point over here.
Thank you.
And Christopher Hartman, you have another question?
Yeah, I think somebody might have just answered it in the chat. I was asking about the version of the Scouter's Guide because it says 2023 on your website. So
it is 2023's. If there's changes, we'll send something out. There'll probably be an update. So the best place to really know if there's updates, and Lindsay is telling me to remind you guys, is our Instagram and our Facebook. So make sure you, if you are not already following our Instagram, and subscribe to our Facebook. That's where we post pretty much everything. We also have the newsletter, but if you want to know things like immediately, check the Instagram, check Facebook. So when there's changes to the Scouter's Guide, which there won't be many, if any, it'll be put there.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
There's a question in the chat, Chris, about switching sites in terms of costs of the different sites.
Yep. So we can definitely switch your site. There's no cost associated with it. You just got to let me know. So you can email. Tia's kind of answered there. You can email me there. You can also email the property bookings team, Scouts Canada's properties booking team, and they can do it as well. They'll probably just loop me in.
And the one thing about the further away sites, I would just say, like, the kids, like, they get so good at canoeing by day 3. Like, they do get tired, but like the improvement in their paddling skill is ridiculous because like they just get tired of scouters telling them to hurry up or their friends telling them to hurry up. So they get better at it very quickly. So like just like, and there are lots of really great sites on the back half of the lake.
And it is funny as a staff side. So the hub has windows overlooking the lake, and it is always interesting on the very first day that you see youth paddling across the lake and you see them snaking. And then by the end of the week, they're going straight. They've clearly practiced their skills. It's amazing. David, you have another question?
Yeah, sorry, everyone. This is more from like a group commissioner perspective. I'm thinking about the regulations and whatnot. So standard level, standard first aid level C, that's sufficient for taking the kids out to these semi-wilderness campsites. I don't need wilderness first aid.
Correct.
Okay.
However, you you, I guess, if you are your group commissioner, do have to sign off on the activity and stuff form. So if you feel that you need more, that's up to you.
Okay, well, we're gonna run all the kids through like level 2 at least of swim skills, all that stuff, and anyone who will know exactly what level they're at. And maybe this is more for somebody, Andy, maybe, when do you start letting the kids, like, somebody mentioned the kids going, oh, if they want to go out for a paddle and a swim, would that be without the scouters? Because if the scouters are supposed to be taking a break on Thursday morning and the kids go out in the canoe, then I assume that the scouters are with them or they're on the dock watching them. So maybe Ventures go. We only have scout age kids, so is it the Ventures who are going off by themselves, or?
It's a mix of things. So yeah, the venturers definitely are gonna do their thing. They're venturers. They can. The rovers can do their thing. The scouts need a degree of supervision, but it's one of the things we talked about in terms of the number of scouters. It's good if you can, have a couple of scouters that can kind of watch a bunch of youth that are paddling around. It doesn't need to be all of your scouters. And if you've got other senior youth, they're really big help there as well. The other thing is, your youth, what they're capable of. If you need to be in a boat absolutely right beside them, or if the fact that you can see them from the dock is sufficient. And maybe the first couple of times you do it, you don't know your youth, and you tend to you work through that process. They figure it out 2 or 3 days in, and by the middle of the week you've got a pretty good idea who's capable of what. What you'll usually find is the youth are pretty good at organizing themselves along those lines. That if you've got some slightly more experienced paddlers and some maybe more senior youth, they'll be doing all the organizing by about the middle of the week, because they've figured out where everything is. They've figured out who's a good paddler. They've figured out who likes to pick the princess position in the middle of the canoe, and your youth will move them to somebody else to change up the pairings. And we do that all week. We let the youth figure out how they're going to adjust their pairings on who shares in a canoe. And our more experienced senior youth basically are our advanced canoe mentors throughout the week, that they will also kind of take a turn of paddling with each of our youth and assess what else they need to do, what they can teach them, who's improving their skills. As Steve mentioned, the paddling skills take leaps and bounds throughout the week, and that's one of the things that is so unique about this camp. Is the fact that you paddle everywhere, and by the end of the week, you'd be amazed at how good some of them are, and you can give them a little bit more leeway.
And one other thing is just because there's such a various range of skill in the canoes and stuff at the beginning, they're not gonna you're gonna say, okay, go to the hub, and you're not gonna but you're not gonna be in ducks in a row, right? There's going to be some chaos and some things that have to sort of be expected for that. You're not going to all line up on a nice sandy beach and all launch your canoes exactly the same time on any of the sites at Haliburton and those type of things. So that does happen. One of the things that we use just to give the kids some illusion of being on their own is we use an in and out board. So when they leave the site, they it's a clip, they just move their name from one side to the other, and so it works that way. We've also done where they've hung up their whistles for their canoes, right? So there's an in board, and then when they take it off, they have to have their whistle with them, so they can take it with them. So there's ways that you can sort of keep track of the chaos and give the kids more illusion of independence, that are just and for the first time going, maybe you don't want to jump into those things, but there are ways of doing that and managing the chaos that work really nice.
All right. If nobody has any more questions, going once, going twice, I think we will end it here. So the recording will be available when I figure out how to share it. Well, I'll probably send it to your emails along with a copy of the slides. So you can click all these links that are put in there and you can watch the video. I also linked the video at the very, very beginning as some people weren't able to see it, or maybe it just didn't play. I'm not too sure. But yes, thank you everybody for coming. And if the people who helped put on this presentation today could just stick around after, just really quickly, that would be great. Remember to do the survey and to follow us on Instagram at Haliburton Scout Reserve. Thank you.